In this video, we're going to be swapping out my aftermarket steering column with a factory replacement retrofit column by the guys over at Ididit. The main thing that I want to get out of this is the addition of a tilt column, which I currently do not have. And although I do like the race car look of the aluminum column, I feel like a black column would probably look a little bit better since this is going to be a full-on street car and not really like a race-prepped race car. So this column is going to go on my 1973 Dodge Charger. We're going to install the direct fit retrofit column in this car, and then we're going to connect it to my brand new Borgeson box as well. This is an OE retrofit column, not to be confused with an OE replacement column. This is basically a column that looks very similar to the OE. It has the factory mounts to locate the column into the stock location, but it does come with a couple upgrades. The most obvious one is going to be this double D shaft right here. Instead of using a rag joint or pillow ball joint at the steering box, this kit actually comes with the double D shaft that slides into a U-joint, a solid U-joint, usually into like a Borgeson box or something like that. Switching over from the rag joint to a U-joint gives you a much firmer feel. And if you don't like how firm the feel is, you can actually swap out the solid joint for an insulated joint, and you still have most of the stiffness into the steering, but the joint does have a little bit more vibration dampening. When we go to install this column, I'll show you exactly what I mean. I mentioned earlier that this column had some updates, so it used a standard GM connector, and then this GM connector actually gets hooked up to this conversion adapter. The conversion adapter allows you to connect to the factory Mopar harness, and then the ignition circuits themselves are controlled by this 6-pin connector. The 6-pin connector then connects to the bottom of the control module here, and then all the beefy high amperage circuits are ran through this. Once you connect the big connector, you have individual connectors here, and these are going to go into the firewall. These are going to go into the wires that are coming out of your fuse box. So then it'll be these three connectors that control your start circuit, your run circuit, and your accessory circuit. In addition to the wiring kit, you could also purchase an installation kit, and this one will mount directly where your old one used to go, and it has the appropriate size pillow mount in the middle for your column to slide into and then tighten up so it doesn't move. It also has seals on the bottom and in the middle to prevent any kind of moisture from entering the cabin from the firewall. Lastly, you have this dress-up kit of different handles and hardware that are supposed to go into the column once your column is installed. And these are basically the handles for your hazard switch, your turn signals, and most importantly on this particular kit is the tilt lever. So this particular steering column actually has a tilt column feature. There's a tilt mechanism here, so once you're seated into your seat, you recline your seat however you want, and then you can tilt your steering wheel down for the best driving experience. For me, this was the biggest selling point. I love having a tilt column. I've installed a tilt column into my truck and I absolutely love it. I've currently installed a non-tilt column into the 72 Challenger, and that one I'm not as comfortable driving as I am my truck. So this is definitely going to make a big difference in terms of comfort. And last but not least is a set of OE style keys. So now that we know what's in the box, let's go ahead and get this installed. I'm going to be following the instructions as closely as I can this time around. Last time I tried to install one of these, I skipped a couple of steps and I missed something, had to take it all apart, start over. So this time we're going to be listening to the instructions, and if anything changes, I'll let you guys know. So starting up here on the top left, it shows you what comes in this kit. So you have the full retrofit steering column, you have the relay box like I told you, the firewall mount, and the accessory little baggie here. We've already removed the column that was in there, and we have already disconnected the battery, so we are all good there. We're going to jump all the way to the bottom here where it says installing your Ididit column. So it says the firewall mount should be the first part that you install, so let's go ahead and grab that. So this is my starting point. I started with the floor plate. I identified which way was up. That was number one. So I went ahead and I put this up on the floor, and then I kept turning it until I figured out which way it looked the best. And then once I found that out, I went ahead and I marked it with up, and then I marked up on the gasket as well. That way I don't get lost, it's just easier. I've already had to reference it a couple times. The next step is to actually bolt this to the floor, but because I have a reinforcement plate on my floorboard for my clutch, I can't just bolt it on, so I had to cut out a section of that plate in order to make this work. If you were installing this in a factory application, you wouldn't have to do this at all. But because mine is kind of a custom deal, it's going to take a little bit more effort. But if you were doing this at home with your stock Challenger, this would just basically bolt up. Basically, I just needed to cut out enough so that way the concave part of this plate would fit, and then I needed to make enough room for the bolts. So I just basically ended up cutting out a big oval, and that made enough room for this. Later on, after I take it all apart again to make it look nice, I'll go ahead and I'll either clean it up or I'll just pre-make the hole before I install the doubler plate. Everything's gonna get taken apart to get painted anyway as soon as the car is done. So when it's time to do that, I'll probably just take it all apart, redo it, and make it look a lot nicer. But for right now, it bolts on, and that's what I'm looking for. The next step is to actually use the hardware that came with the kit to bolt this plate onto the floorboard. And if you didn't have any hardware, this would make do. There's no issue with the hardware that they gave us, but because I have the factory hardware, I'm gonna wanna use the factory hardware. So I have 3 of these that match. I'm gonna wanna reuse these so that way I don't lose them. What I am going to reuse, however, are the washers, because the holes on this one are just a little big. I don't wanna risk my bolts falling through them, so I'm gonna use the fender washers that came with the kit, and that'll give me more than enough room to try to play with this a little bit. I'm still going to try to center it as best as I can, but just in case, using the washers won't hurt. Bolting the plate onto the floor was pretty straightforward. Just 3 bolts go in, try to center it as best as you can, and keep them somewhat loose because we're going to be moving it around a little bit. Things are starting to come together, so the next step is to actually take your steering column and you'll grab, I guess what they call a load plate, and you're going to leave the bevel part of the load plate toward your steering wheel, and you're going to slip it over the steering column. The instructions actually warn you to put a little bit of masking tape here because this plate's going to be sliding up and down and you don't want to scratch it all up. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now that we've got some masking tape on here, we're going to go ahead and take the load plate, slip it in, bevel toward the steering wheel. We're going to take the O-ring, and we're going to put the O-ring and just slip it on toward the top over by the load plate, and that's going to hold the load plate up as we position the steering column. We've got ourselves another caveat here. I don't have the actual studs that go through the steering column. They actually broke off when we were taking everything apart. What I was able to do is take out the broken pieces and then rethread the nuts, and then now we're going to, instead of running studs, we're going to run a couple bolts. These are probably not the right bolts that we should be using. These are like cheapy Harbor Freight bolts. If the hardware store was open, I'd go out and get myself a set of flange bolts, some grade 8 bolts, but they're not open now, so this is what we're gonna use. Now that we've got the steering column more or less where it has to be, it's time to take the load plate and the O-ring and run them down to the floor plate. Once you get them all the way down, you're gonna wanna torque these bolts down to 11 foot-pounds according to the instructions. So I'm gonna need 2 hands for this, but once I do that, I'm probably safe to remove the tape. Okay, so this next step was a little bit more difficult to accomplish. According to the instructions, we need the steering shaft to meet up with your steering gear almost as perfectly as possible. So we are like 95% there. I don't have any qualms with this. I'm sure it's gonna steer fine, but it took a little bit of effort to get there. Originally, this thing was about probably close to a 1/2 inch off. And the easiest way I was able to get this to align was to loosen up the bolts on that backing plate that we installed and then kind of move it around. Since the holes are oversized, I'm pretty sure this is the reason why they're oversized. They're really big holes, so you can move it around to try to get it, you know, where you need it to. So what I basically did is I loosened up the bolts, I retracted this back into the steering column, and then I grabbed the universal joint that we're gonna use and I slipped it in between. And then once I had them together, actually it goes this way. Once I had them together, I tightened up the plate and then I separated the shaft from the U-joint. And then once I had those two apart, I grabbed the shaft and I tried to put it back in here to see how easy it was to just have it slip in. What I realized is that when I took it apart, it took me a little bit of effort to get them to separate. And then when I tried to put them back together, the shaft was just a little too far off from where it was supposed to be to try to get them together. And if you were to just loosen it, put them together, tighten it, and then try to drive it, what was gonna happen is that you were gonna have kind of a hard spot where it was gonna turn and then lock up and then let go and then lock up and then let go. As the U-joint would come around, you would feel like a kind of a notchy steering wheel. So in order to reduce that as much as possible, you wanna line these two up as best as you can. So I know that this car was in an accident, you know, before we owned it. This quarter panel has been completely replaced. That frame rail has been completely replaced. And then there's still damage underneath the car. And in fact, this frame rail right here is still a little bit tweaked. So what I can infer from this is that the K-member is probably not 100% square on this body. And if the K member is off, the steering gear is going to be off. And if the steering gear is off, the steering is going to be off. So I tried to align it as best as I could using the plate, and then I had to shim the steering column from the mount in order to get that last bit to get it to line up. So now if I go ahead and move the double D shaft back into the steering column, and then I go and I slip the U-joint onto here, and then hopefully line these two up like so, and then this should just kind of slip in with very little effort. The less effort that you have to get these two together, the better it's going to steer. So, and there it is. So it's completely in. I didn't have to finagle anything. I didn't have to force anything. It just slips in. So that's basically what you're looking for. So there's basically two different types of U-joints that you can use. Both of these are made by Borgeson. Actually, there's probably a few more that you can use depending on what steering column you're running. For example, the one that I ran previously was a different Borgeson joint. And what changes is either the input or the output of this U-joint, spline count, spline size, and what it's going into. But the two that I have here they have the same spline count. They both enter the steering gear just fine. The column side of this one has a double D shaft opening, and the column side for this other one has a slip. So most people don't like the slip style. You're supposed to probably weld it and then run a pin through it. The problem with welding it is that you have to be super careful because you can't take these U-joints apart. And so if you overheat the joint, you're gonna melt the grease that's in here and it's all gonna run out. If you start steering without grease, eventually it's gonna wear out, it's gonna break, and you're gonna have problems. So a lot of people will run a pin through this instead and use a round shaft instead of a double D shaft. With my previous steering box, I did run a double D shaft into a slip Borgeson joint, but it's definitely not the most ideal thing to do. Aside from that, the next biggest difference is the overall size. You can see that this one's short, this one's long. It's not that this one's technically long, it's that this one has an insulating bushing inside of here. It's like a rubber joint. So instead of feeling 100% of the vibrations like you would with something like this one actually takes the place of the rag joint and kind of nullifies a little bit of the vibrations, makes it a little bit more comfortable on the steering wheel. You might lose a little bit of sensitivity in the steering wheel, but that's kind of the point. On something you drive around on the street a lot, you don't want to get that fatigue on your hands, so this helps minimize it. And don't get me wrong, I don't believe that this is going to be a night and day difference, but you know, it will be something. Another benefit of using the insulating joint is that it has a little bit of give compared to this. So if your box isn't, 100% aligned, like I've got about like 95% aligned, if I was going to maybe feel a little bit of a notch in the steering, now with this I'm going to feel even less of a notch. So that's another plus for running this type of joint. So definitely consider running an insulated joint versus just a solid joint. If it's a full-on race car, then run whatever you want. This is probably lighter. You're probably going to run this one. But for a street car, this is probably your best bet. So the column comes with basically 4 components that you're going to need to wire your system in. The connector that we were just looking at actually hooks up to this guy right here. And then this gray connector on this side goes to your factory harness. This will take care of your turn signal, brake lights, hazard lights, and it even has a wire for the horn button. These other 2 harnesses actually go together. These guys connect to these guys. This side connects to this box, and this side connects to the connector that would have been on your steering column. This contains your main battery power, your ignition wire, accessory wire. All the high amperage wires in the factory ignition are located in this little sub harness. But what Ididit has done is that they've incorporated this little box, whereas instead of running all the high amperage wires through your ignition switch, all those wires are going to go through the box instead. So let me go ahead and show you what that would look like on the car. So instead of running 4 or 5 fat wires up the steering column into your ignition switch, what these guys have done is that instead they gave us a bunch of trigger wires. As you can see, these guys are like 16 gauge or 18 gauge wire into like a 6-pin computer style connector, one of which actually ends up being a ground wire, and these 6 pins go to the bottom of this little module that came included with the kit. So this guy would basically just plug in to the bottom of here, and now all your trigger wires, inputs and outputs that control the higher amp circuits are now completely controlled by the module itself. And it's really hard to connect this with one hand, but I've got it. So now that we've got this one hooked up, if you look at the rest of here, we can see where the rest of the wires are supposed to go. So we've got our original 12 volt battery wire that comes typically from the starter relay or the battery itself. We have the wire going to our ignition, typically the ballast resistor. But since I'm not using a ballast resistor, this would just go to my regular ignition module. Then we've got another 12 volt battery power. Then we've got the output wire that triggers the starter solenoid. And these last two wires are going to be accessory 1 and 2. All right, so fast forward, and I've installed the dashboard. I've already ran a bunch of wiring inside of the car, and all of my gauges are wired up, including the indicators for my turn signals. So now that I've got the dash installed, the wiring set up, and the column it's in its proper location, let's see how well this thing works. So if we turn the key back, that's what would turn on our radio, which we don't have. If we then go back to center and then hit the key forward, all of my gauges light up, my fuel pump is running, my other gauges are lit up, and then if I go one more click, it should start up. With the gauges on, if I go ahead and hit a left turn signal, I have my left turn signal indicator right here. If I hit the right turn signal, I have my right turn signal indicator. And the only thing I don't have properly wired up right now are the hazard lights. So those are not working right now. If you guys are wondering where my steering wheel is, it's actually right here. So just grab this guy, slip it over the quick release nut, and we are good to go. If I need to remove it, I just lift up on the quick release and then yank the steering wheel off. So now I can get in and out of my car without any problems. I've made a video on this before, but this is an Ididit quick release, and it actually works really well, very solid. There's pretty much no play in the steering, and so far I really like the way it's set up. The only thing I needed to do to make this work with this column was I needed to trim back this plastic ring a little bit, just enough so I can slip this collar on and then tighten down the center nut and call it good. Here's a nice look around the column to show you guys how it fits around my plastics, and it is indeed a pretty tight fit. And let's not forget the tilt feature, which we have right here on the back. Just pull on that guy, and then we can tilt the column down a really good amount, and then we can tilt the column back up all the way to the top. So this is its regular position, and then you can bring it down this far. And contrary to popular belief, this column actually has very little, if no play in the tilt column mechanism. A lot of the cheaper columns, a lot of people don't like them because the tilt feature will kind of shake and have a little bit of movement here. But this Ididit column feels excellent. Probably the best tilt column I've ever had. Partly because it's brand new, but also because it's actually built very well. So like I said, this is fast forward several months since its initial installation, and I've got no qualms. It works very good. It's very competitively priced compared to other models on the internet, but this one definitely checks all my boxes. So if you guys have any questions relating to anything here, go ahead and post them in the comments down below. I will see you guys all in the next one. Night Wrencher signing out.